Good evening, everyone. We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. What better day than today to remind ourselves of this beautiful proverb? And what better way to celebrate Earth Day by gathering here together to witness the release of Disaster Law Principles and Practice by Dr. Amita Singh. A groundbreaking book that fills a crucial gap in the study and application of disaster law in India and South Asia, advocating for a shift from punitive approaches to a broader recognition on our collective responsibility towards all life forms on Earth. I, Prachi Bhardwaj, on behalf of EBC, feel deeply honored to welcome you all on this momentous occasion. Allow me to please welcome the esteemed guests on the dais. A person who loves art often finds a deep connection with nature. And our chief guest today, Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul, former Judge, Supreme Court of India, is a perfect embodiment of this harmony. His passion for theatre, music, and golf reflects a well-rounded appreciation for his beauty of life and the world around us. With an illustrious career spanning over 4 decades as both a lawyer and a judge, Justice Kaul has consistently exemplified unwavering commitment to justice and integrity. Justice Kaul's commitment towards Mother Earth is evident in his influential judgments that prioritize the health of our planet. Through his work, Justice Kaul has not only transformed the legal landscape, but has also inspired countless individuals to champion the rule of law. His profound contributions have left an indelible mark on the Indian legal system, paving the way for future generations. Sir, it is an honor to have you here with us as a chief guest today. I would like to request Ms. Nilufer Bhatwija to felicitate Justice Kaul. A teacher affects eternity. He can never tell where his influence stops. These words by Henry Adams perfectly encapsulate our next guest, Professor Bharti, Professor and Dean of the Faculty of Law at Manipal University, Jaipur. A founding faculty member at the National Law University, Delhi, Professor Bharti has also taught at Delhi University from 1998 to 2009 and has held significant roles at NLU Delhi, including Associate Dean Academics and Director of the Center for Environmental Law Policy and Research. Her contributions extend as serving as the President Officer of the ICC and convening several important committees. Beyond her numerous publications in law journals, she has conducted training programs for judicial officers and parliamentary staff, workshops and presentations in Bhutan, Turkey, Singapore, and South Africa. Professor Bharti has also spearheaded research projects with the Law Commission of India and the Ministry of Women and Child Development and has served on the academic committees at renowned universities. We would also like to extend our thanks to Professor Bharti for graciously stepping in at the last minute as Professor N.K. Chakrabarti was unable to join us due to personal reasons. It is an honor to have you here with us, ma'am. I would like to request Ms. Kriti Kumar to please felicitate Professor Bharti. The greatest lawyer is not the one who wins the most cases, but the one who serves their clients with integrity and compassion. Our next guest, Mr. Percival Billimoria, embodies this philosophy as a distinguished senior advocate and also a chartered accountant. He seamlessly blends legal and financial expertise in his practice. Starting his career in 1987, Mr. Billimoria has amassed an extensive experience as an arguing counsel, representing multinational companies and investors. His impressive career includes significant roles, Amarchandan Mangaldas, and AZB and Partners. Beyond his professional achievements, Mr. Billimoria is deeply passionate about animal rights, cricket, music, and the arts, including oil painting and theatre. His diverse interests and commitment to the community reflect his multifaceted nature and as an advocate, making him not only a legal expert, but also a champion for social causes. We are honored to have you here with us, sir. I would request Ms. Shubhra Venkat to please felicitate Mr. Villemoria. In the face of disaster, effective governance is not just an option, it is a necessity. And our author, Dr. Amita Singh, truly stands by this. A leading authority in disaster research and governance, Dr. Singh currently serves as the president of NDRG, an Asia-Pacific Disaster Research Group, and is a senior fellow at the Institute of Sciences in New Delhi. Dr. Singh has also been the founder chairperson of Special Center for Disaster Research at GNU. A recipient of numerous national and international accolades, Dr. Singh is dedicated to both governance and social justice. Additionally, she is a passionate advocate for habitat rights of non-human species, leading the Gurgaon-based organization Walk for Animals and Habitat. Dr. Singh's extensive research collaborations span esteemed institutions, including the Kennedy School at Harvard University and various universities in Australia and South Asia. An accomplished author and editor, she has published 14 books and approximately 60 research papers. Today, we are honored to witness the release of a timely and authoritative book on disaster law. Thank you, ma'am, for giving EBC a chance to publish this book. I would like to request Ms. Nikita Mithas to felicitate Dr. Singh. Established in the 1940s, EBC has been a pioneer in providing high-quality legal resources to professionals and students alike. In a complex legal landscape, EBC aims at bridging the gap between the law and those it serves. Mr. Sumit Malik, as the director at EBC and associate editor at SCC, has, through his visionary leadership, been instrumental in advancing EBC's mission and elevating its impact in the legal landscape. I would like to request Ms. Sonali Ahuja to felicitate Mr. Malik. While we wait for Dr. Sinha to join us, I would like to request Mr. Malik to please address the audience.
My Lord Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul, former Judge, Supreme Court of India, Mr. Percival Villemoria, Senior Advocate, Shri Rakesh Sinha, Policy Analyst and former MP Rajya Sabha, Professor Bharti, Dean Faculty of Law, Manipal University, and our author, Dr. Amita Singh, Professor of Law, NUJS, Senior Advocates, Professors and Teachers, Students and gentle people. It is my privilege and pleasure to welcome all of you to this event celebrating the release of the book on disaster law authored by Dr. Amita Singh. I am grateful to our Chief Justice and to our guests of honor for taking out the time to participate in this event. It is also my privilege to welcome Dr. Amita Singh to the pantheon of EBC authors. It is her first book with EBC. If you in the audience have attended some of our earlier book releases, you may have heard what I am about to say, but I say it again. In this new world of technology and artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, which allows for instant self-publication and publishing on blogs, etc., the question is, how do we at EBC see ourselves? What is the role of a publisher? In today's context, I can say that we see ourselves as the trustees of the legacy of authors. We have, over the years, continued to preserve the legacy of our authors, names that are synonymous with study, teaching, and the practice of law. Professor V.N. Shukla, Professor Kelkar, Dr. Avtar Singh, Professor Ahmed Siddique, Sri V.D. Mahajan, Sri V.G. Ramachandran, Professor T.K. Tope, Professor B.M. Gandhi, and others. In addition, it also means the publishing of material at the forefront of legal thought. A book, as I see it, is a custodian of thoughts and ideas, whereas judges, while deciding cases, are bound to decide the lists before them on a given set of facts and apply the law to those facts. Authors, when writing such books, do not face such limitations. A good author will explain the law to the audience, but a great author in their book, and there are many, will show the light forward by placing their thoughts and ideas in a book of what they consider the law ought to be. There was a little skepticism when Dr. Amita Singh spoke to us about a book on disaster law. However, when the manuscript was received, all of that disappeared. There are very few books on disaster law, and even fewer that cover the topic so comprehensively as all of you will discover. This area of law is not only taught in law schools, but in over 500 universities, which speaks volumes of the importance of this area of law and its proper implementation and the training of all its stakeholders. As we at EBC enter our 84th year since our incorporation, what we have learned is to understand what the legal profession requires and what our role can be in fulfilling that requirement. We believe that our role is to bridge the gap between legal information and knowledge and those that consume that legal information and knowledge. As a third generation member of our publishing house, I have been blessed to have been shown the way by my elders. My granduncle and grandfather had very humble beginnings, delivering books and bicycles to lawyers, including the great Dr. Ambedkar, and when they started off as booksellers in 1942. Even then, the mission was clear: provide a service that assists the practitioner in her work. This mission continues with the same spirit when EBC started publishing books for lawyers and students in 1947. The books we produce must be of high quality and assist the user in their quest for knowledge. To be effective in our role, we must produce authentic, accurate, and reliable materials and content. We've also continued to innovate over the years to keep ourselves relevant. In 1969, when Mr. Suren Malik graduated from Delhi University after studying the newly introduced case method, he realized that there was a need for faster reporting of Supreme Court judgments. Thus, the innovation of Supreme Court cases came about. As all of you are aware, there can be no second edition of a law report, and it must be got right the very first time. Prompt, accurate, and complete have been our philosophy, which have been adhered to since then, and we understand and recognize our responsibility that the honorable judges and the bar rely on SEC. He has now taken up the onerous task of reporting judgments of the Supreme Court from 1950 to 1968, a period not previously covered in SEC. Just in the first 10 volumes published, we've discovered and reported so many important judgments of the court that have never been reported before. With High Court cases, or HCC, a newly launched venture, we begin the journey to report judgments of the High Courts of India with the same alacrity and comprehensiveness as we report the Supreme Court. EBC was amongst the first publishers to introduce a legal research database on CD-ROM in 1996, which was less than 650 megabytes in size, and now the SCC Online Web Edition has grown to 20 terabyte of data, 6 million documents covering over 400 plus jurisdictions around the world. Even though we believe that the printed book is not going away, yet for the tech-savvy reader, the EBC reader platform is ready and has over 400 books, and we add new books to it every day. SCC Times, a web-based blog covering court proceedings, law school news, and similar topics, has now over 1 million views and more than 500,000 visitors each month. An increasing number of legal professionals rely on it as a source of authentic and analytical legal news. Constantly innovating, EBC's newest services, EBC Learning, an e-learning platform, and Mercury, a judgment tracking software, are already gaining loyal users. We are also fortunate to have as part of EBC a dedicated team of legal editors, software engineers, DTP staff, proofreaders, sales and marketing staff, and managers who are as much, if not sometimes more, invested in ensuring that what is produced in the House of EBC is of high quality, authentic, accurate, and reliable. It has been an absolute wonderful experience working with Dr. Amita Singh on her book, and we look forward to working her on more titles. I cannot end without acknowledging the efforts of Prachi Bharadwaj, Nilafar Bhateja, Kriti Kumar, and Tejaswini Mishra from the EBC team in putting today's event together. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. The moment that we have all gathered to witness today is here. I would like to request Chief Guest, Justice Kaul, to please release the book, Disaster Law, Principles and Practice. And I would also like to request all the dignitaries on the dais to please join him. What a momentous moment to witness. Keeping the momentum on, I would like to request Justice Kaul to please share a few words with the audience.
Eminent people on and off the dais, Dr. Amita Singh, who's the author of the book for which we have all assembled here today, ladies and gentlemen, very good evening to all of you. We are here for launch of this book of disaster law, and the laudable contribution of Dr. Amita Singh in this field, amongst others, by release of various books, articles and other material of which reference was made earlier. The book, which I am certain will be appreciated and acknowledged as an authority unto itself, is thus a culmination of several years of research, effort and practical on-ground experience of Dr. Singh. I extend my congratulations and best wishes to her. Carl Sagan, the celebrated American astronomer and planetary scientist, in his 1994 book, A Pale Blue Dot, alluded to the significance of seminal photograph taken by the Voyager 1 space probe of Earth from over 6 billion kilometers away, showing the Earth as a small speck of suspended dust. And I quote, "From this distance, vantage point, the Earth might not seem to be of any particular interest, but for us it's different. Consider again that dot. That's here, that's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being, whoever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religious, ideological and economic doctrines, every hunter and every forayer, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, eminent people on and off the dais, Dr. Amita Singh, who is the author of the book for which we have all assembled here today, ladies and gentlemen, very good evening to all of you. We are here for launch of this book of disaster law, and the laudable contribution of Dr. Amita Singh in this field, amongst others, by release of various books, articles and other material of which reference was made earlier. The book, which I am certain will be appreciated and acknowledged as an authority unto itself, is thus a culmination of several years of research, effort and practical on-ground experience of Dr. Singh. I extend my congratulations and best wishes to her. Carl Sagan, the celebrated American astronomer and planetary scientist, in his 1994 book, A Pale Blue Dot, alluded to the significance of seminal photograph taken by the Voyager 1 space probe of Earth from over 6 billion kilometers away, showing the Earth as a small speck of suspended dust. And I quote, "From this distance, vantage point, the Earth might not seem to be of any particular interest, but for us it's different. Consider again that dot. That's here, that's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being, whoever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religious, ideological and economic doctrines, every hunter and every forayer, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived here on a mote of dust suspended in sunbeam. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. Unquote. This equal parts ominous and foretelling observations is ever more apt today. Record temperatures, devastating wildfires, floods, epidemics, pandemics, and droughts are all distress signals which our planet is sending out in all frequencies. Dr. Singh's book captures the entire gamut of environmental issues plaguing the world today, from natural disasters to zoonotic disasters, the likes of which we have faced collectively in the recent past, with COVID-19 pandemic, to contingencies of enormous repercussions, which are largely the result of human error, such as Exxon Valdez and Deepwater Horizon spills, or the 2017 Californian wildfires, the cause of which, amongst others, was put down to failures of power lines belonging to the PNG Electric. I must say, after COVID-19, my belief and thought was that the world would learn by it. How a man can be confined to a space, how the animals roamed the streets when they found space, and the irrelevance of disputes. I was proved wrong. Everything has come up with an extra vehemence post the COVID pandemic. And maybe the society has become more intolerant than ever before. We are seeing two wars continue, getting into our ears, where people thought this is a conflict for a few days. What damage they do to the environment, what damage they do to civilization, what damage they do to the loss of life to the people has been enormous and still not ending. Importantly, the book is multidimensional and acknowledges the disaster law, and as a consequence, disaster management necessarily requires an interdisciplinary approach. Dr. Singh, in his first chapter of the book, notes the cross-sectional approach to the foundational principle of disaster law and management. The science, laws, ethics, and public policy play a crucial role in evolving disaster law. A fitting reference in the book is to Mashelkar Committee constituted by the Supreme Court in the MC Mehta versus Union of India, which was instrumental in introduction of CNG as a fuel in public transports in Delhi. Today, we are talking about a different mode of fuel, a different electric cars coming in, a process of evolution which continues as we learn from the past. I believe the book will be instructive for academics, administrators, and policymakers, in addition to legal professionals and jurists. In addition to covering contemporary legal and statutory positions on the disaster management and laws, it spans and devotes chapters to disaster affecting foreign trade, the framework for resilient trade and supply chain networks in the face of disasters, including reference to the UNESCO model chapter on trade in crisis situation. Disaster diplomacy, which includes an in-depth analysis of India's vaccine diplomacy and regional response during the pandemic. Intersectionality of discriminated identities during disasters, which I found to be thought-provoking. For instance, Dr. Singh highlights the flood in Germany's Ahr Valley, which was particularly hard-hitting for senior citizens, and among the casualties, including 12 persons with disabilities who were at the time living in care home in Sinzik. Needless to say, the book also delves deep into the foundational precepts of disaster and environmental law in India and across jurisdiction, with granular analysis of negligence and discharge of the duty to care, and evolution of precautionary principles and polluters pay principle by courts in the country. A critical examination of the working of the Disaster Management Act sheds light on and would serve as a call to action for legislative intervention, especially in view of the lessons we have learned from the response to COVID-19 pandemic. Overlapping functions, layered processes, and multiple supporting institutions such as NDRF, NDMA, and IDM, coupled with overarching control exercised by MHA, are obvious impediments to promote response in the face of adversity. In fact, while dealing with an issue concerning environmental clearance for a project and complete lackadaisical attitude of the state authorities in Kerala State Coastal Management Authority versus DLF Universal Limited, constrained us to observe that the dispute had been a saga of a sleeping authority, not having an afternoon siesta, but a Kumbhakarn sleep, albeit of almost 4 years. This is regrettably universally true for state instrumentalities. Precisely why the need of the hour is a dedicated machinery manned by specialized and trained professionals, adept at tackling environmental governance in the nature of Indian environmental services. This idea was broached by 2014 TSR Subramaniam Committee report, which reviewed India's environmental law and the processes under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. The committee proposed the IES as an all-India service to hire specialized professionals for policy development, execution, and for addressing complex issues such as pollution, climate change, and ecosystem decline. A public interest litigation came to be filed on which notice was issued limited to this aspect. There was, however, a lack of will to implement the TSR Subramaniam Committee on the part of the dispensation. Since mandamus could not have been issued to implement the report, the PIL came to be dismissed. In my view, the time is ripe for a concerted and concrete steps in strengthening the state machinery and preparedness to tackle unforeseen large-scale disasters. Dr. Singh has underscored administrative and institutional deficits and far-reaching consequences thereof in the chapter on administrative law and disaster law, which makes a profound point. Good administrative practices which bypass roadblocks and facilitate quick responses during emergency obviate the act of God defense, which is invariably taken by authorities as an escape route for administrative failure. This is exemplified in the difference to lives saved and property protected in the 1999 super cyclone in Orissa, which took 15,000 lives, and the damaged property worth $4.4 billion, and the alert response of the State Disaster Management Authority to the 2019 Fani cyclone, which saved countless lives by shifting close to 1 million people to the shelters. We are in some trying times. The most powerful country in the world on the political spectrum is taking a line different from what was held earlier. Somehow they feel, the current political dispensation there, that environment issues must go back to economic growth. This has always been a challenge wherever it occurs. How much of growth and how much of protection of environment, and those environmental degradation in turn cause these disasters. I believe the world will face a more difficult time, because when the leading superpower of the world takes a different point of view, it becomes so much more challenging for the others to deal with the situation. This book is undoubtedly a labor of love and reflects a great degree of thought, research, and effort put in by Dr. Singh, including her incredible personal efforts in visiting disaster-affected regions across the country and the world. It is a great primer on the current state of disaster laws in India, and beyond covering a wide array of legislations, international and regional agreements, law evolved by courts, and also makes constructive suggestions on the best way forward. It would no doubt serve as a go-to book for practitioners across various fields, and I'm sure Dr. Singh will achieve great success. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Operational and comparative legal stipulations, principles, structure, and institutions and gaps that are addressed. This book is bound to be an indispensable tool for academicians and practitioners in the field of disaster laws and management. The time has come to compulsorily require all educational institutions, especially law schools, to induct the study on the subject of disaster laws in their curriculum and practicum to attune them to the volatile reality of our times. In the exigent-prone contemporary times, disaster events have increased in frequency and intensity, and there is an imperative need to have appropriate disaster laws nationally and globally. The exigencies of various kinds, natural and man-made, and more of the latter, including the ubiquitous climate change that has threatened human and other life, in the words of the author. It is a continuing disaster in a sense, different from a single or a series of cataclysmic episode or event, and thus needs a different response system. Disaster laws comprehensively provide the legal framework for a precautionary preventive preparedness approach that augments capacity building and offers security, as well as response and recovery efforts that provide succor in times of crisis to people, especially the vulnerable people and communities. A dystopian future of human existence is predicted mainly by the past and present environmental accumulations and can only be averted by sufficient, timely, and conscious course correction stemming from individual and collective responsibility. The corrections or actions in terms of relevant statutory enactment, rules, regulations, policy, and programs need foundational construction and design, including scholarly and research inputs. This book is a major work providing the foundational premise to the dynamic subject of disaster laws. Amongst the many significant dimensions of the publication, a unique perspective of the author is evident in Chapter 4 that focuses on an area that is highly relevant but has eluded in-depth scrutiny since long. It talks about the intersectionality of the disaster theme, mainly in terms of the excluded persons and disadvantaged communities, as the women, LGBT, disabled, etc., that bear the major brunt in case of a disaster and must be mainstreamed and addressed through inclusive policy measures for effective outcomes, especially for protection of human life and liberty and dignity during crisis. This book is going to be pivotal and an indispensable aid to academicians, researchers, policymakers, practitioners, and communities and people vulnerable in the disaster realm to understand better the complex realities of disaster management. My very best wishes for its great success in that it initiates greater deliberations on the subject amongst all and leads to rigorous research and better collaboration across disciplines to build safer, more resilient societies. Congratulations once again to the author, Professor Amita Singh, and to EBC for an excellent publication. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I would now like to request Mr. Bilimoria to address the audience.
Justice Call, what a pleasure to hear your remarks and what a great honor to share the dais with you, including other distinguished members of the panel. August 2021, 11:55 p.m., a young American girl was arguing with the American military. There was a huge transport aircraft which was parked on the tarmac in Kabul. She was suggesting to the servicemen that she should be allowed to board the aircraft along with her brood of rescued dogs. The servicemen, some of them with tears in their eyes, said, regretfully, we cannot allow you. They were under orders to evacuate only American citizens. Even the Afghan collaborators were left behind. That's a different story altogether. What a tragedy. I shudder to think of what happened to that young, brave woman staying back in Kabul, and also the dogs. This book is a poignant reminder of this incident. It touches upon what is known now in the US as the snowball incident. Everyone remembers Hurricane Katrina. That is the disaster in Florida, which hit US very hard. There was a 9-year-old boy who refused to evacuate unless his pet dog was allowed to come along. Fortunately, that moment was caught on camera, and that led to an uproar in the United States, and Congress passed a legislation to deal with treatment of animals and animal rights in disaster zones. Professor Singh has extensively dealt with the legal framework that we have in India. I think the very first judgment that enthralled me was what is popularly known now as the Jallikattu judgment, when Justice Radhakrishnan went to the extent of saying that animals have a right to life. It also said to live in dignity. In other words, Article 21 of our Constitution, according to Justice Radhakrishnan and his companion judge, applied also to animals. Sadly, when the decision was referred to the Constitution bench, the principle that Article 21 should also apply to animals was diluted. There have been many High Court judgments of many states. Some have said that animals are also juridical persons. There is the English concept of speaking for the voiceless, where you can represent and speak up for a entity that cannot speak for itself. Unfortunately, our Supreme Court has also diluted that a little by saying that, look, that applies only to humans who cannot express themselves and not to animals. It is the doctrine of locus parenti. This being the situation here, and we heard from legal luminaries and people more qualified than me, who clearly said that we need a very good framework of laws that deal with the rights of animals, especially in disaster zones, and that is, as I said, extensively dealt with by Professor Singh, but also in normal day-to-day life. The book, to my horror, points out that the Kaziranga sanctuary in Assam is prone to annual floods. It's a sanctuary. It's one of the most beautiful sanctuaries, there are a lot of tourist activity, but it is absolutely the most delightful place that I have ever had the opportunity to visit. And then to read about it in the book, to say that it is prone to annual flooding, is a horrendous situation. We live in a country where our forest cover is being decimated. Now, I'm not against development, and there are laws in this country where forest land can be diverted to non-forest use. It is regulated, it is done. So, for example, mining. I don't think anybody can stand up and say that we do not support mining because it's for the good of the country and its people. But unfortunately, there are land mafias. Just about a week or 10 days ago, I was horrified to see a video on social media that dealt with forest cover in the state of Telangana being razed to the ground overnight. Once again, a very horrific experience. Now, if you saw this little clip, it was a very short clip, there could have been a number of reactions. Were you among those who could not bear the agony of the animals crying out for help? Perhaps with a tinge of horror. Some of us have the reaction that, okay, so it was a video clip I saw, oh my God, how sad. And then promptly, there's a mobile phone and we get talking and getting on with the business of life. That's the other reaction. Would you be surprised if I told you that there are people who wonder what the fuss is about? After all, these are only animals. The merit of this book that Professor Singh has given us today is that it forces us to consider a very important question. And that question is, should we be distinguishing between a human life and a life in another being? Is there a distinction? Well, let me rephrase that a little. We know every human life is worth saving. So are we now saying that an animal life is not? Or, given scarce resources, human life take precedence over animal life? Let me remind you, the Hercules aircraft that was standing on the tarmac of Kabul did not have a problem of resources. There was adequate space. So where does this come from? It comes from the belief of man versus beast. Some of us believe, there are a lot of people who believe that animals, and it's also in our Shastras, by the way. In Hindu Shastra, there is not a single deity who is not associated with an animal. It is there in all Shastras. In my religion, which I don't know much about, I must confess, dogs, for example, are holy animals. It is in the scriptures. I've gone to the trouble of establishing this. So this is a very startling question. And if anybody here is startled not by the question, but the fact that I even asked that question, then I think that is the problem. Because there is a fundamental belief that animals do not have a soul. So there are two competing philosophies now. An animal is a sentient being. Now, what is the meaning of sentient? We know. Sentient being is one that has a sense of awareness, that can feel, that can communicate. Right? I'm stretching it here, but when you say that it is a sentient being, it has feelings. Sadly, we are still living in the era of barbarism, where many people, most certainly in the West, believe that it is man versus beast, not same soul in a different body. This is what we call now in today's world as speciesism. Some of us believe that animals are different species and do not have a soul. Speciesism. For many long years, this was the justification to use animals as beasts of burden, or even to use them for nourishment. Let me say this. None of what I'm going to now touch upon makes any sense until everyone realizes the cost of treating animals as not having a soul. What is the cost? Not just to the environment, it's more. Not even to people's emotions, so the emotions of people like me. But until we dwell upon the spiritual meaning of life, because if an animal is alive, that is life. We cannot create life. We cannot take it. If we believe that we are a superior species, it becomes our duty. It becomes our duty to take care of animals who cannot look after themselves. So it's a very different philosophy. But until you understand what is life, you're not going to be able to make the switch. Oh yes, I can appeal to your conscience. I can shock you by saying, what a shame that your dinner screamed for its life this morning. So when I was getting married, the biggest issue was, I'm not going to have people come and feast on an animal that was alive just that morning. Not on my watch, definitely not at my expense. We have to understand the metaphysics of the soul. What does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to be a sentient being? We are all conscious, we are told. I learned this in school. We are all conscious because I am alive. But now we have quantum theory. And I am, of course, not an expert on it. But I have read quite a lot of quantum theory and understood some, not everything. And in this quantum theory, we have what is known as string theory and the theory of entanglement. That seems to suggest that it is actually because we are conscious that we are alive. It is consciousness that creates life. Some say we live in a hologram. It does not strike us, does it? That simply because we are a superior species, discovering quantum theory, we have to change our old ways of thinking, our old patterns of thinking. And I wonder why I'm here even asking this question. Do I have to be an empath or a super empath to be asking people, why is it that in this world as a whole, certainly much so less because of our long traditions and our shastras, but in this world, you still have cruelty to animals who are sentient beings. The same soul in a different body. And to understand it is the same soul, you have to dive into metaphysics, and I don't believe I have that much time on hand. But believe me, if you were to study that, and I'll be happy to have a conversation with any of you, you will certainly appreciate that this indeed is the case. Now, by animals, I mean all animals. A lot of people know me as a benefactor of dogs. I have 24, and every time that there is a case that needs nurturing and caring, my heart breaks. There was a situation where somebody came to me and said, please take this dog, she is 6 years old, and She was picked up as a puppy, a street dog, picked up as a puppy and given a home. And now that lady who was looking after her for 6 years has just died. And she'll have to be released on the streets. Obviously, she's not going to be able to take care of herself. She won't know the next thing about scavenging for food. So I had to take her in. About 2 weeks ago, there is a lady from Chhatarpur who came and said, look, I have this mother and daughter. I'm taking care of them, but mother is 16 and the neighborhood is hostile. And I just want to make sure that she has a place to rest in her last days. I had to take her in. But it leaves me amazed. What are we as a society coming to? Again, I'm saying it's not just dogs. Elephants are more intelligent than dogs. So are pigs, by the way. Pigs and elephants compete for the highest known IQ. It's not dogs. My own belief is that dogs have a very high emotional quotient. And that's why we tend to like them a lot more, and they've been domesticated. What has happened though is, ever since dogs were domesticated, which I think I believe is about a few 100,000 years ago, if you read the history of dogs. Ever since that day when dogs were domesticated, we developed the ability to communicate with them. And sure enough, I can tell you today, you can communicate with animals. I'm not talking about remote viewing, none of that. There was a very interesting documentary that I saw the other day. A Thai woman grew up in a village, obviously surrounded by animals, grew up to trust elephants. And the elephants trusted her. She went to the USA, got educated, and then there was something lacking in her life. So she came back and she started a sanctuary for elephants which were old and infirm and were mistreated. It's a beautiful documentary, and if you see that, you will know what I mean. You can communicate with animals, whether it's a dog, an elephant, or a pig. I have seen many times. As a child, I went to, in Bombay, the MAFCO factory, where I saw pigs squealing for their lives being brought in for the slaughter. Now, when they were being transported, how did they know? Today, there are so many videos. Today, we have the advantage of software like YouTube and social media. You can find a lot of videos where when you load cattle onto a truck on the way to the slaughterhouse, they know, they are aware already. In fact, animals have a stronger instinct than human beings. And every day in the media, there is a story about cruelty to dogs. Why dogs again? Because being a city, our roads and streets have a lot of strays. Now, there is a Prevention of Corruption Act that Professor Singh has covered. There is an Animal Welfare Board of India, which is a central government board, the Ministry of Animal Husbandry and Fisheries. And this AWBI has formulated several regulations and rules. One of them is what we call as the ABC rules. It stands for Animal Birth Control Rules. As per the Animal Birth Control Rules, the only way to control the dog population is sterilization. Now, this is law. I have also looked at the science on this. There are so many examples It's recommended, by the way, by the World Bank bodies. Not that I have too much of a great opinion about the World Bank after COVID, especially, but again, for whatever it's worth, there are World Bank authorities which have said that sterilization is the only way. I also have with me several papers, so the experience of other countries such as Netherlands, even some of our neighboring countries, Bhutan, they had a dog issue. There were too many dogs. And what did they do? Sterilization in a much more organized way. And that's the only way to solve that question of why are there so many dogs. See, the point is, whenever I adopted a dog out of my 24, I made sure that I would adopt a female. Because a female in her lifetime can give rise to up to 50 dogs. Each litter can have 5 or 6 or more. So if you follow that breeding cycle, you get 50. So if you picked up one single female from the road and got her sterilized, you actually stopped 50 offsprings. It's not a happy condition. I don't like the fact that there are dogs who suffer on the roads, who are prone to cruelty. Because there are, unfortunately, we do not understand. There are people, families which grow up hating dogs. See, it's a fact of life that today, if I like dogs, it's because my mother was a dog lover. You tend to follow the way you are brought up determines what you are today. And there are many, unfortunately, who do not like dogs. Or may I dare say, who misunderstand dogs. Why do I say this? So when I get home at night, which is sometimes 2 or 3 in the morning, there are 3 or 4 dogs who are awake. There's a special dog house made for them. But there are 2 or 3 who are awake and vigilant. And the moment I walk into the door, they will come scampering and climb on me. So what are they doing? Are they trying to maul me? See, this is a word you will find in the media. Are they trying to maul me? I don't think so. They are just expressing their affection and the fact that they are happy that I'm back home. Unfortunately, people do not understand. And there is one trend that has been very disturbing. Our media was always pro-animal rights. We had Justice Radhakrishnan's decision in 2014. In 2016, the Supreme Court ruled on a challenge to the AWBI rules. The media always supported animal rights. No longer so. No longer so. Because there are people in the media who have poisoned the well, so to speak. So now whenever there is an article on dogs, the headline is dog menace. It's become a catchword. What do you mean by dog menace? Oh yeah, I saw them mauling you when you got home last night. You were tired, you were dog tired, and they were mauling you. No, they were not mauling me. It was wonderful for me to meet them because they are like my children. Why do I say that? Because I can communicate with them. They look into my eyes and I know what they mean. There is a lady here called Shilpa. She will tell you she was petrified of dogs. But when her family got a dog, she now treats the dog like a baby. Just like my aunt back home in Bombay, she said, "Oh my God, I will never step into your home now." And the moment the dog came, within 2 weeks, she said, "I think I'm going to look after this dog. You're too busy." So these are reactions. It's not just human emotion. There is a connect. There is a distinct connect. There is also, unfortunately, an element that influences the media, which in turn, it's a cyclical situation, because what happens is, if you hear of a story, then you will say, "Oh my God, I have to be careful too." Or you'll tell your child that, "Listen, when you go out, please be very careful of your streeties." Now that is building fear. We need to sensitize people in schools, explain to them. So I'm also reminded of the fact that Justice Kaul passed an order. So there was a lady who passed the judicial services exam, and there was some incident about a dog bite. And it turned out that it was fake. And I think Justice Kaul remedied the situation and ensured that the poor lady's career did not suffer. There are so many, there is such fake news that is going on. I'll just give you one or two more examples. So there's this university which is actually, they are benefactors for dogs. So there was a young lady staying in the hostel who died. Immediately the headlines were, "Mauled by a dog, mauled by a dog." Now, unfortunately, they could not hide the gunshot wound. So it turned out that the lady's fiancé, or whatever you choose to call him, got into a fit of jealousy and shot the woman. They were staying in the same hostel. But the point is that the dog is always the first, "Oh, blame the dog." I have a full library of instances where this has happened. And you know what? Now we have another challenge. There are these deep fakes, videos that say, "Oh, let's blame the dog." I think I've given you enough food for thought. Not just a few words, but a few paras. But I hope it has been thought-provoking. And I would certainly urge everyone to realize, and as I said, if at all, I have done a little bit of in-depth study on this subject. And if anybody has a question, I'm more than happy to clarify. And I know that, Professor Singh is also on the same page with me on this one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your thought-provoking address. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Rakesh Sinha, who truly exemplifies these words by Mahatma Gandhi. Please give a big round of applause for her. Policy analyst and a former Rajya Sabha member, Dr. Sinha is the founding honorary director of the India Policy Foundation, a prominent Delhi-based think tank. Hailing from a small village in Bihar, Dr. Sinha has demonstrated a strong commitment to sustainable development. In 2020, he adopted Konthong village in Meghalaya, later expanding his efforts to include 3 additional villages. His initiatives, which include providing modern toilets and sanitary pad vending machines to the villagers, aim to uplift local lives. With multiple authored books and papers and private member bills introduced in Parliament, Dr. Sinha continues to make significant contributions to Indian society. We are honored to have you here with us, sir.
आदरणीय जस्टिस संजय कृष्ण कौल जी, श्री बिली मौर्य जी, प्रोफेसर भारती, सुमित मलिक जी और इस बुक की ऑथर अमिता सिंह जी, मैं डिजास्टर में का स्टूडेंट तो नहीं रहा, लेकिन मैं कुछ अपने अनुभव आपसे साझा करता हूँ। द मोस्ट डिफिकल्ट थिंग एंड द क्राइसिस इन इंडिया इज द थिंग which is related to the grassroots and the common people and masses have been transformed into elite discourse. इसका एक उदाहरण मैं देता हूँ। जब मैं मेघालय में गांव गोद लिया, आई अडॉप्टेड ए विलेज कोंगथोंग, तो फर्स्ट थिंग आई डिड दैट आई लर्न खासी लैंग्वेज। क्योंकि एक डिजास्टर यह होता है कि जब आप किसी जगह पर, अनडेवलप्ड जगह पर अपनी भाषा लेकर जाते हैं तो उन पे इम्पोज करते हैं। जब मैं उनको नमस्ते की जगह खुबलई कहता हूँ तो उसका मतलब नमस्ते होता है, थैंक यू। एक वर्ड में 3 चीज़ें आती हैं, नमस्ते, थैंक यू और कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशंस, तीनों खुबलई से आता है। तो जब कोई मेघालय से मुझे फ़ोन आता है तो मैं नमस्ते करने की जब वो नमस्ते करते मैं खुबलई शुभम करता हूँ। तो मैं जो कहना चाहता था कि आई विजिटेड 37 times in that village in my 6 years tenure, except 1 year, that was the COVID time. 2021 के एंड में जब कोविड का थोड़ा लूज किया गया, मूवमेंट शुरू हो गया था, तो मैं जा रहा था। ये ईस्ट खासी हिल्स में है। ईस्ट खासी हिल्स में सोरा एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी है, चेरापूंजी के पास। तो ड्राइवर जब जा रहा था तो आई स्टॉप द ड्राइवर कि आपने गलत रूट ले लिया है। तो ड्राइवर बोला मैं ठीक रूट लिया हूँ। तो फिर मैंने अपने सिक्योरिटी वाले को बुलाया, मैं कही रूट तो ठीक नहीं है। मेरी याद ठीक है कि यहाँ एक माउंटेन था, बड़ा सा माउंटेन था, वन ऑफ द लार्जेस्ट माउंटेन। वो प्लेन हो चुका था। 1 साल के कोविड में पूरा माउंटेन प्लेन हो चुका था। तो मैं कहा यह माउंटेन था और ये इस रूट में आप ये कितना बड़ा अर्थ के साथ इनजस्टिस है। फॉर 100 million rupees that mountain was demolished, it was sold. जब मैं वहाँ के लोगों से पूछा तो जो लेबर था they were getting 150 rupees per day. Due to lack of the job, you cannot convince the need for the mountain. उनके लिए अपने पेट को भरना बहुत जरूरी था। वो एक जॉब कर रहे हैं, माउंटेन को तोड़कर जॉब कर रहे हैं, अपना परिवार चला रहे हैं। आपके लिए नेचर है, उनके लिए स्टमक है। यह जो गैप है और जिस बात का के कारण अमिता सिंह जी ने एक अच्छी किताब लिखी है, उन्होंने एक डिस्कोर्स को आगे बढ़ाया है। दूसरा इंस्टेंस बताता हूँ कि यहाँ के कॉमन लोग नेचर से जुड़े रहते हैं, पर्टिकुलरली इंडियंस, क्योंकि स्पिरिचुअलिटी के साथ साथ सोशल लाइफ, कल्चरल लाइफ में नेचर का सेंट्रल इम्पोर्टेंस है। वी वर्शिप नेचर, वी लिव विद द नेचर। जो लोग गांव नहीं गए हैं, गांव में नहीं रहते हैं, उनको ये इसका आइडिया नहीं है किस प्रकार से पेड़ों को बचाना, रिवर्स की पूजा करना। तो दूसरे इंस्टेंस में बताता हूँ कि बिहार में एक सोन रिवर है जिसका डिजास्टर हर साल आता है। तो मैंने एक न्यूज़पेपर में एक जब आर्टिकल लिखा था तो उसमें इसका जिक्र किया कि उस बेल्ट को क्या बोलते हैं। यह भी सुन लीजिए कि हमारे पॉलिसी मेकर्स कितने एलीट हो गए हैं, कितने एलीट रहे हैं, कितना कॉलोनियल हैंगओवर उन पे रहा है, कितने पैसे खर्च होंगे आज़ादी के बाद फ्लड को लेकर। तो इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में इसी तरह एक बुक रिलीज़ था। मैं पार्लियामेंट से लेट से पहुंचा था तो ऐसे ही माइक पकड़ाया गया। तो मैंने वहाँ पहुँचते ही, मुझे कभी आइडिया नहीं था कि पॉलिसी मेकर्स को वो वर्ड मालूम नहीं होगा। मैंने कहा कि आप सब दियारा जानते होंगे। तो एक साइलेंस दिखाई पड़ा, तो मुझे लगा शायद इन्हें मालूम नहीं है। जो इंडियन पॉलिसी मेकर्स हैं डिजास्टर पे या एग्रीकल्चर पे यदि दियारा शब्द नहीं जानते हैं, दे आर नॉट ओनली डूइंग इनजस्टिस विद द पीपल, दे आर द क्रिमिनल्स। हम एक अच्छी जगह पर सेमिनार कर रहे हैं, स्टेट का रिसोर्सेज है, हमारा रिसोर्सेज है। यदि इस सेमिनार का इम्पैक्ट द लास्ट मैन तक नहीं पहुंचता है, तो फिर उसका कोई लाभ नहीं होता है। वो दियारा उसको बोलते हैं जहां लैंड इरोजन कॉन्टिन्यूसली होता रहता है। रिवर चेंजेज इस रूट, और रिवर के रूट चेंज होने के कारण 1 किलोमीटर to 3 किलोमीटर्स सबमर्जेज इन द रिवर। वो सबमर्ज सिर्फ लैंड ही नहीं करता है, एक उस पूरे लैंड को दियारा के नाम से हम जानते हैं। और फॉर्चुनेटली और अनफॉर्चुनेटली ब्रिटिश पॉलिसी मेकर्स वर वेल वर्स्ड विद द टर्म, नैरेटिव एंड द इम्पैक्ट ऑफ दियारा। पोस्ट कॉलोनियल पीरियड का ये सब समस्या आई है। अगर कॉपी पेस्ट भी करते तो शायद हम जान जाते, वह भी हमने नहीं किया। ये ब्रह्मपुत्र रिवर जो असम का है, बिहार का गंडक, गंगा, सोन, यूपी का सोनभद्र, ये सब यूपी का, असम का लगभग 75% लैंड ब्रह्मपुत्र क्षेत्र में आता है। और डिस्प्लेसमेंट का जो रेट है दैट इज हाईएस्ट इन द वर्ल्ड, because there is no democratic voice at the grassroots level. Everything is become the political parties are the melting pot. So the voices coming to the political parties, they are articulated in such a way, there is no grievance at the, just they are the takers and we are the givers. So I find that there is no democracy at the grassroots. So no channelization of the democratic voice. अगर होता तो ब्रह्मपुत्र का 75% लैंड इन असम का, और डिस्प्लेसमेंट के आप आंकड़े आप गूगल सर्च करके देख सकते हैं, बहुत मेहनत नहीं करना पड़ेगा। तो जो मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि हाउ पीपल आर इनोसेंट। जो रिवर हर साल, यानी एक फार्मर अपने लाइफ टाइम में एवरेज 3 times he changes his postal address. His house is demolished, submerged in the river, then he makes another house, then another house, minimum 3 houses. So there is a continuously and constantly the migration of the people from the Diara land. बिहार में 10,000 acres का, हेक्टेयर्स का एक, उसको मोकामा टाल कहते हैं। यदि 10,000 acres में 6 to 7 months वाटर लॉगिंग रहता है, यदि उस वाटर लॉगिंग को हम समाप्त कर दें तो देयर कैन बी अनदर पंजाब इन बिहार। तो उन पॉलिसी मेकर्स को दियारा ही शब्द नहीं मालूम है। एक और शब्द है, ये बातें मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूं कि जो डिजास्टर से कैसे जुड़ा हुआ है, चौर। ये लोकल डायलेक्ट में चौर बोलते हैं। ये यूपी, बिहार, असम के लोग जानते हैं, दिल्ली के लोगों को शायद पता नहीं होगा, जरूरत भी नहीं पड़ती है। ये उस लैंड को बोलते हैं जहाँ वाटर क्राइसिस आता है। यहाँ वाटर लॉगिंग है, वहाँ वाटर क्राइसिस है। वाटर आसपास में सब दोनों जगह, उस एक ही डिस्ट्रिक्ट में, एक ही जोग्राफिकल एरिया में वाटर भी है, सब इतना वाटर है कि लोगों का घर सबमर्ज हो रहा है। उसी डिस्ट्रिक्ट में एक अलग पार्ट में एक बूंद पानी नहीं है, उसको चौर बोलते हैं। और दियारा और चौर मिला दें तो नॉर्थ इंडिया का, खासकर यूपी, बिहार, असम और इसका ले लें, उड़ीसा ले लें, तो ऑलमोस्ट 40% लैंड इज अंडर दियारा एंड चौर। जो सबसे इम्पैक्टफुल, जो इस बुक से रिलेटेड बात मैं अमिता जी को उस दिन कहा था बात करते हुए, कि जो लैंड इरोजन होता है, पानी धीरे धीरे आता है और घर चला गया, आप डिस्प्लेस होते हैं, आपके एनिमल्स को कहीं और अपने रिलेटिव के यहाँ भेजते हैं, दैट इज नॉट कवर्ड अंडर द डिजास्टर लॉ, दैट इज नॉट अ डिजास्टर। अगर दिल्ली के किसी बाजार में फायर आ जाए, किसी की मौत भी नहीं हो तो डिजास्टर होगा, लेकिन हंड्रेड एंड थाउजेंड्स ऑफ पीपल आर विक्टिम ऑफ दैट, दैट इज नॉट डिजास्टर। कोई कानून ही नहीं है। तो एक तो वन पार्ट। दूसरा, मैं फिर मेघालय जाता हूँ। जब मैं फ्रिक्वेंटली विजिट करता था तो आई हैड कन्फ्रंटेशन विद द माफिया। Although my identity is with particular ideology, but my economic thought is different and completely different. I don't hide that economic thought. कि equality is the core and essence of the human society. If you are discarding equality, no ideology can, no human society can survive in peace, harmony. तो फॉरेस्ट ए में डिफॉरेस्टेशन बहुत तेजी से हो रहा था। तो मैंने पूछा, तो उस सारे एक पहाड़ पे, माउंटेन पे प्लांट को बढ़ने के लिए 20 ईयर्स चाहिए, जब पूरा फुल फ्लेज ट्री बनने के लिए इट टेक्स 20 ईयर्स एवरेज, 18 to 20 ईयर्स। आपको मेघालय आप जाएंगे तो आपको प्लांट मिलेगा ही नहीं। कौन सा प्लांट सेफ गार्डेड है? तो वहाँ के खासीज जो ट्राइब है, सेंग खासीज, खासी में भी सेंग खासीज, बिकॉज खासीज आर डिवाइडेड बिटवीन टू, सेंग खासीज एंड खासीज। जो कन्वर्टेड हैं वो खासीज रह गए, जो नॉन कन्वर्टेड हैं सेंग खासीज रह गए। तो सेंग खासीज वर्शिप फॉरेस्ट, उसको कहते हैं सेक्रेट फॉरेस्ट, पवित्र जंगल। तो ओनली दोज फॉरेस्ट आर सेफ गार्डेड जिसको वो अपना स्पिरिचुअली मानते हैं। यू कैन नॉट प्लग इट लीव फ्रॉम दैट, दे आर सेफ गार्डिंग, इट इज नॉट द गवर्नमेंट। जितने लेयर्स गवर्नमेंट का बना लें वो सेफ गार्ड नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, वो ट्राइबल उसको सेफ गार्ड कर रहे हैं, चूंकि उनका एक स्पिरिचुअल इमोशनल लिंक है। यदि उस लिंक को आप हटा दें तो मेघालय विल बी कंप्लीट डिफॉरेस्टेशन, द कंप्लीट डिफॉरेस्टेशन ऑफ मेघालय। द सेम थिंग इज हैपनिंग इन अदर पार्ट्स ऑफ द कंट्री। हम मार्जिनलाइज्ड लोगों की बातें करते हैं, तो उसमें तीसरा जो इम्पोर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट है वो डिफॉरेस्टेशन का जो उनके लाइफ पर इम्पैक्ट है, दैट इज नॉट कवर्ड अंडर द डिजास्टर लॉ। एक और मैं आश्चर्य बताता हूँ, जब मैं पार्लियामेंट में मैं एक एक क्वेश्चन बनाने के लिए 2-2 दिन पढ़ता था। ये गारंटी नहीं था वो क्वेश्चन आ ही जाए, क्योंकि वो बैलेट से क्वेश्चन आता है, लेकिन वो बिना क्वेश्चन आए ही चर्चा में होती थी। जो लोग बैलेट करते थे वो क्वेश्चन पे बहुत चर्चा करते थे, मुझे फ़ोन भी करते थे। तो एक दिन मैंने एक बहुत सिंपल क्वेश्चन लगाया, क्योंकि मेरा ये सब्जेक्ट नहीं है, ये बहुत आसान सब्जेक्ट नहीं है। डिजास्टर और फॉरेस्ट ये सबको पढ़ना बहुत आसान है, बाहर से आसान लगता है लेकिन बहुत कठिन होता है। जब जितने अंदर जाएंगे उतनी कठिनाई हो। मैंने एक सिंपल सा क्वेश्चन लगाया, चूँकि मैं उसका डेफिनेशन ढूंढ रहा था। तो मैंने लगाया कि व्हाट इज डेफिनेशन ऑफ फॉरेस्ट। भारत सरकार के पास फॉरेस्ट का कोई डेफिनेशन नहीं है। आई गॉट द आंसर, बिफोर द आंसर आई डिस्कस विद द मिनिस्टर कि ये क्वेश्चन क्या लगा दिया आपने। आफ्टर 7 days हार्ड वर्क दे फाउंड दैट देयर इज नो डेफिनेशन ऑफ फॉरेस्ट इन इंडिया। एक और आप देखिए फॉरेस्ट के साथ डिफॉरेस्टेशन में क्या हो रहा है। एवरी ईयर यू विल हेयर दैट कि एरिया ऑफ फॉरेस्ट इज इंक्रीजिंग। अभी 25% था तो 25.9% हो गया। तो मैंने एक क्वेश्चन पूछा, दिस इज ट्रू दैट एरिया ऑफ फॉरेस्ट इज इंक्रीजिंग, बट इज इट ऑल्सो ट्रू दैट डेंसिटी ऑफ फॉरेस्ट इज डिक्रीजिंग। आप फॉरेस्ट का एरिया बढ़ा रहे हैं, जो फॉरेस्ट माफिया है, हु आर दे? इट इज हुई। हमें घर में ऐसी चीजें चाहिए, हम उस कंज्यूमरिज्म के हिस्से हैं, उस न्यू लिबरलिज्म के हिस्से हैं जिसमें हमें बेस्ट वुड चाहिए। वुड कहाँ से आएगा? माफिया इसलिए है कि बिकॉज वी आर, दैट इज इन डिमांड, फ्रॉम मी, फ्रॉम अस। इससे जिस दिन डिमांड खत्म हो जाएगा उसका वो तो मार्केट है, ही इज माफिया बिकॉज ही इज डूइंग इलीगल थिंग। वह भी एक काम कर रहा है। तो फॉरेस्ट भारत में आप, देयर इज नो पैरामीटर इन इंडिया टू assess and evaluate the density of the forest। मैंने हंसते हुए सप्लीमेंट्री क्वेश्चन में कहा कि आप आराम से फॉरेस्ट के अंदर गाड़ियां चला सकते हैं, क्योंकि इसकी डेंसिटी इतनी कम हो चुकी है। तो दीज आर द थिंग्स which are related to the grassroots people। फॉरेस्ट क्यों बचा? जिनको हम बेदखल कर रहे हैं, जल जमीन जंगल से जिन्हें हम बेदखल कर रहे हैं, whosoever in the government, in the name under the pretext of the development, the first victim of the development is the most marginalized people। एक बार सर, आप तो लॉयर हैं और कौल साहब तो कई जजमेंट दिए होंगे इस तरह का। तो एक बार मैंने एक टीवी डिबेट पर कहा, यदि छत्तीसगढ़ और झारखंड पाकिस्तान और बांग्लादेश की तरह अलग नेशन स्टेट बन गया होता तो वहाँ के ट्राइबल के पास एक घर होता, मारुति गाड़ी होती, जो पेट की बात कर रहे हैं उनके पास भी पेट होता, उनके पास भी अच्छी सड़कें होती हैं। तो वी आर ड्रेनिंग देयर रिसोर्सेस एंड नॉट रिस्पॉन्डिंग देयर नीड्स। तो आप ट्राइबल एरिया के इंटीरियर में आप जाएंगे, झारखंड में या छत्तीसगढ़ में, अगर आपको जाने का मौका मिलता है, और जाना चाहिए, क्योंकि हम तो सिर्फ कंक्रीट के जंगलों का ही पर्यटन करते हैं, तो हमें कुछ मालूम नहीं होगा फिर कि गूगल सर्च करके ढूंढते हैं कि मिजरीज कहाँ कहाँ है। तो आपको ये दिखाई पड़ेगा कि देयर कंडीशन ऑफ लाइफ इज लेसर देन द कंडीशन ऑफ द एनिमल्स, और उनकी संख्या घटती है। वनरेबल ट्राइब क्यों हुआ? इससे नहीं कि उनकी फर्टिलिटी रेट कम हो गई है। देयर आर ओनली टू रीजन्स। एक तो फर्टिलिटी रेट कम होने से वनरेबिलिटी होती है, कोई जनसंख्या कम होती है। दूसरा, फ्रॉम जेनरेशन टू जेनरेशन, पास्ट टू पोस्टेरिटी, दे आर इन सच ए क्राइसिस। नेचुरल वे में उनकी फर्टिलिटी कम नहीं हुई है, क्राइसिस ने उनकी फर्टिलिटी को कम कर दिया। तो there are 75 vulnerable tribes. They are not under the disaster because they are dying their own death. तो ये कुछ बातें हैं। तो मैं तो ये चाहता हूँ कि डिजास्टर के इशू को एक मास मूवमेंट की तरह देखना चाहिए, और इसको इस तरह की बहुत सी किताबें आनी चाहिए, और वो किताबें अमिता जी इंडियन लैंग्वेजेज में आनी चाहिए। अंग्रेजी पढ़ने वालों के साथ डिजास्टर तब आता है जब कोविड आता है, जब गलती से कौन सिनेमा हॉल था उसमें आग लग गई थी। ये हम सब के पास डिजास्टर तब आता, रेयरली आता है, आना भी नहीं चाहिए। उनके पास वो तो डिजास्टर में ही जीते हैं। तो सबसे है कि उसको मैं ग्रासरूट का तो मैं नहीं जानता हूँ क्या कहें, लेकिन ज़मीनीकरण करना चाहिए, मासेस तक जाना चाहिए। और दूसरा एक जो मैं और एक क्वेश्चन मैं रेज किया था कि डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में, डिजास्टर्स के जो हैं लोग, उसमें नंबर ऑफ वीमेन है ही नहीं। नाउ यू आर ए विक्टिम एंड आई एम हेल्पिंग यू एज ए पुलिस ऑफ डिजास्टर, तो उसमें तो आपको लाइफ बचाना है। एट द सेम टाइम जब आप रेट्रोस्पेक्टिव में देखें, नॉट नेसेसरली मैं ये कहता ऐसा होता ही होगा, रेट्रोस्पेक्टिव में देखेंगे तो इट ऑल्सो अटैक ऑन द डिग्निटी ऑफ वुमेन। जब हम वुमेन पुलिसिंग कराते हैं तो डिजास्टर में भी वुमेन होना चाहिए। इस सवाल मैंने उठाया था, और नंबर ऑफ वुमेन, बिकॉज क्लाइमेट डिजास्टर से आपने अपने बुक में 2022 का आंकड़ा दिया है कि सबसे ज़्यादा वेमेन ही डिस्प्लेस्ड होती हैं। 80% वेमेन आर डिस्प्लेस्ड ड्यू टू क्लाइमेट डिजास्टर। 21.5 मिलियन डिस्प्लेस्ड, आउट ऑफ देम 80% वेमेन। डेथ भी 14 टाइम्स मोर द वुमेन एंड चिल्ड्रन का होता है, लेकिन वुमेन का रिप्रेजेंटेशन ही नहीं है वहाँ पर। इट इज़ कंप्लीट। अगर कहीं पर पैट्रियार्की सबसे ज़्यादा है तो डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में पैट्रियार्की है। तो इन कुछ बेसिक इश्यूज हैं जिसको हम भूल जाते हैं। और एक और छोटी सी बात बताकर मैं अपना अनुभव बताकर अपनी बात समाप्त करता हूँ। आप बहुत देर से सुन रहे हैं। अरुणाचल प्रदेश में एक गांव है, वहाँ मैं जाते जाते रह गया, लेकिन नहीं जाकर भी मैं वहाँ पहुँच गया। कभी कभी इमोशंस ऐसा होता है जिससे प्रेम प्रसंग, लव स्टोरी में देखते हैं कि हीरो हीरोइन मिलता नहीं है, लेकिन सेंटिमेंट इतना होता है कि दोनों एक दूसरे को प्रेम करते रहते हैं। यही उस गांव के साथ मेरा हुआ। कोंगथोंग तो हो ही गया है मेरा, एंड मुझे लगता है मेरा गांव ही कोंगथोंग है। मैं अपने ओरिजिनल गांव को भूल गया हूँ। और मैं तो घर में भी कहा कि माई लास्ट डेज वुड बी इन द कोंगथोंग विद द ट्राइबल्स। दो ही चीज़ नॉर्थ ईस्ट के लोगों को चाहिए। उनका कल्चर अपना है। जब नॉर्थ इंडियन और साउथ या रेस्ट ऑफ द इंडियंस वहाँ जाते हैं, दे मिस इंटरप्रेट देयर जेंडर रिलेशनशिप, दे एक्सप्लॉइट देयर ट्रेडिशन ऑफ जेंडर रिलेशनशिप, दे हैव देयर ओन ऑटोनॉमी। इसलिए उस जगह पर अगर आप उनके जेंडर रिलेशनशिप को इम्पोर्टेंस देते हुए और उसको अनटच रखते हैं, and you work as a man of the character, you become the god for them. तो ऐसे ही अरुणाचल में एक गांव है एनेनी, उसको सुसाइड विलेज कहते हैं। सुसाइड विलेज क्यों कहते हैं कि उसका पॉपुलेशन जो 12,000 आज से 30 ईयर्स पहले था, वो 30 ईयर्स बाद भी 12,000 है। पीपल आर वेरी सेंसिटिव। आप आए, मैं आया, आपने मेरा स्वागत नहीं किया और मैं जाकर सुसाइड कर लिया। दो लड़के लड़कियां बात कर रहे हैं, इंटरप्शन हुआ, एक ने सुसाइड कर लिया। एक ने सुसाइड किया तो उसके कंपटीशन में दूसरे ने भी सुसाइड कर लिया। तो तरुण मेने नाम के एक स्कॉलर ने राजीव गांधी जो सेंट्रल यूनिवर्सिटी है उससे उस पर पीएचडी किया है सुसाइड विलेज पे, उसका पीएचडी है। एंड आई मेंशन दैट पीएचडी इन द राज्यसभा माई रेजोल्यूशन। उस गांव में इतनी ब्यूटी है, एट द बॉर्डर ऑफ द चाइना है, तो वहाँ हम लोग नहीं जा पाए। तो 8 टाइम्स आई रेज द क्वेश्चन, 8 टाइम्स। तो वो आवाज़ वहाँ पहुँची, उन्होंने मेरे लिए एक जैकेट भेजा और इस शर्त थी वहाँ के मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट को कि इस जैकेट को मुझे पहनाया जाएगा और वीडियोस उनको दिखाया जाएगा। तो सेंट्रल हॉल में मैं वो जैकेट पहना, उसका वीडियोस वहाँ के उस गाँव के जो हेड ने देखा। They are the people, marginalized people are most emotional. They don't require anything, just they safeguarding their dignity and life. वो उनको कुछ नहीं चाहिए। तो दियारा, चौर, डिफॉरेस्टेशन, ये सब ऐसी समस्याएं हैं जो अर्थ डे भी है। और मैं कॉन्ग्रेचुलेट करता हूँ अमिता सिंह जी को, एक ऐसा कोइंसिडेंटली अर्थ डे पे किताब रिलीज हो रही है। और इनको मैं जानता हूँ जेएनयू में इस फैकल्टी को इनिशिएट करने में कैसे रिगरस इन्होंने वर्क किया और फैकल्टी को उस सेंटर को आगे बढ़ाया। वी हैव बीन टुगेदर इन सो मेनी कमिटीज़, इन एकेडमिक कमिटीज़। और ये रिगरसनेस आफ्टर द रिटायरमेंट फ्रॉम जेएनयू कंटिन्यूज। एज पॉलिटिशियन डज नॉट रिटायर, सो द एकेडमिशियन ऑल्सो डज नॉट रिटायर। तो वो अनटायरिंग वर्क चल रहा है। तो अंत में मैं एक ही बात कहूँगा कि अगर हम कुछ करना चाहते हैं तो 3 चीज़ें हमें करना चाहिए। पहला, डिजास्टर को एनजीओ के रन से मुक्त करना चाहिए और डिजास्टर को कुलीनता से यानी एलिटिज्म से भी मुक्त करना चाहिए। इन दोनों से जब तक आप लिबरेट इसको नहीं करेंगे, अपलिफ्ट नहीं करेंगे, तब तक आप उस कॉज को सर्व नहीं कर सकते। एक। दूसरा, जो हम लोग संपन्न हैं भाषा से, रहन सहन से, संपदा से, यानी बाय रिसोर्सेज, बाय आवर लाइफ स्टाइल, बाय आवर लैंग्वेज, बाय आवर एजुकेशन, ऐसे लोगों को उन जगहों को ढूंढना चाहिए। अब ये डिजास्टर ही है ना कि दुनिया का 2 ही गांव है जो व्हिस्लिंग विलेज है। वन ऑफ देम इज कोंगथोंग विच आई अडॉप्टेड। मैं राज्यसभा में पहली बार गया, उसके पहले मैं किसी जगह था नहीं, कॉलेज यूनियन में होता था। तो मैं ये क्वेश्चन मैं ब्रिटिश सेंसस रिपोर्ट में वो कोंगथोंग का नाम कहीं पढ़ा, फिर सर्च किया। जब मैं क्वेश्चन पूछने जा रहा था, मैं डर रहा था कि पार्लियामेंट्रियन लॉ मेकर्स में कहीं ऐसा न लगेगा कि ये कहाँ से आ गया है, ये गांव का सवाल उठा रहा है। लेकिन जब मैं क्वेश्चन पूछा तो वेंकैया नायडू जी खड़े हो गए और अपलॉड किया, पूरा पार्लियामेंट मेरे साथ खड़ा हो गया। क्या है उस गांव में, देखिए कितनी बड़ी चीज़ हम लूज कर रहे हैं। माँ अपने बच्चे के जन्म से पहले एक ट्यून तैयार करती है उसके लिए। दे कॉल ईच अदर बाय ट्यून, जैसे कुकू, सपोज ये ट्यून है किसी बच्चे का, इसी ट्यून से, जैसे नाम से हम लोगों को बुलाते हैं, इसी ट्यून से एक दूसरे को लोग बुलाते हैं। ये कॉस्कोव गांव है टर्की में, उसका नाम भी के से शुरू होता है। ये कोंगथोंग है, इसका भी नाम। दोनों का पॉपुलेशन 700 है, लेकिन अंतर टर्की और हम में है। उनका विलेज इंटेंजिबल कल्चरल हेरिटेज का यूनेस्को का हिस्सा हो गया। और मैं इसके बारे में, दिल्ली तो दूर, मैं शिलोंग में नेहरू एक सेंट्रल यूनिवर्सिटी है, वाइस चांसलर लोग तो बहुत कम जानते हैं, उन लोगों को तो बहुत आजकल फाइल से उलझे रहते हैं। आजकल के वाइस चांसलर के पास तो पढ़ने का समय नहीं होता है। राधा कृष्णन जैसे कुछ लोग होते थे वाइस चांसलर, अब तो वो इतना गैप आ गया है आजकल के वाइस चांसलर का, तो आप देखेंगे तो पता नहीं किस दुनिया में रहते हैं। पहले वाइस चांसलर होते थे जो स्वयं लाइब्रेरी में जाके पढ़ते थे, तो वाइस चांसलर को तो पता नहीं था, प्रोफेसर्स को भी पता नहीं था, स्टूडेंट्स को भी नहीं पता था। वहाँ के मेरे दोस्त मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट विंसेंट पाला जी थे, मेरे बहुत अच्छे दोस्त थे, उनको भी मालूम नहीं था। वहाँ के एमएलए को नहीं मालूम था, मेरे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के लोगों को भी मालूम नहीं था। उन्होंने कहा ये क्या आपने ढूंढ निकाला। तो आई रीच दैट विलेज एंड आई अडॉप्टेड दैट विलेज। सोशलाइजेशन कितनी बड़ी चीज़ है। पैट्रिशिया मुखिम, एडिटर ऑफ द शिलोंग टाइम्स, शी कॉल्ड मी कि प्लीज अडॉप्ट दिस विलेज बिकॉज पीपल ऑफ दैट विलेज वर्शिप यू लाइक गॉड, सो डोंट लीव दिस विलेज। देन आई अडॉप्टेड दैट विलेज। और अभी उस विलेज में हर व्यक्ति का इनकम 15 to 20,000 पर मंथ, इंडिविजुअल इनकम 15 to 20,000 हो गया। चूँकि यूरो, पाउंड्स, डॉलर वहाँ बहुत आ रहा है, बाहर विजिटर्स, टूरिस्ट बहुत आ रहे हैं उस गांव में। तो दूसरा है कि हमें ऐसे टूरिज्म को बढ़ाना चाहिए, ये दूसरा एस्पेक्ट है। तीसरा यह है कि जो वेस्टर्न कंसेप्ट ऑफ एनजीओ आया वो काम अच्छा करता, मैं आई डोंट कंडेम, लेकिन वो एक प्रोफेशन बनता जा रहा है। वो स्टेट की तरह ही एक सेक्टर बन गया है, स्टेट सेक्टर, एनजीओ सेक्टर। उसके काम खराब हैं, मैं नहीं कर रहा हूँ, एनजीओ में काम अच्छे काम होते हैं, लोग डेडिकेट कर, लेकिन वो एक जब सेक्टर बन जाता है तो फिर ब्यूरोक्रेटाइजेशन, विवेरियन ब्यूरोक्रेसी वहाँ भी आ जाएगा, ब्यूरोक्रेटाइजेशन हो जाएगा, मॉनेटरी चीज़ें आ जाएंगी, कई बातें इन्वॉल्व हो जाती हैं। तो छोटे छोटे ग्रुप बनाकर लिटरेचर के साथ हमें टारगेट करके किसी जगह डिजास्टर के लिए काम करना चाहिए। और बाकी तो अमिता जी कर ही नहीं, मुझे लगा और भी इनकी अगली किताब आएगी तो थोड़ा ग्रास रूट पर ज़्यादा फोकस होगा। और आपने मुझे बुलाया और मेरा ये विषय नहीं था, लेकिन मैं कुछ बोला, इसलिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you, sir, for highlighting some pertinent issues. I would like to request Tejaswini Mishra to please felicitate sir. I would also like to request all the dignitaries on the dais to please join Dr. Sinha in releasing the book once again, because why do it once when we can do it twice? Thank you, everyone. I would like to request Dr. Singh to share her concluding remarks or any thoughts that she has on this occasion.
Actually, I am completely speechless. And while I was hearing all this, I was in another world, because such great, majestic, pristine, and honest ideas that have been coming from the speakers, starting from Justice Kaul. I'm so moved, Justice Kaul, that you read my book and you read it so thoroughly. You knew the pillars that I wanted to really show you, and you saw it. That shows that how successful a judge you must have been at the bench in the Supreme Court. Give him a big hand. It takes him a second, to understand, really. And Percy, a very good friend and comrade at arms in the streets for those who cannot speak for themselves. He would never mince his words, whether in the court or outside, and today also. I'm so proud of you. You made our day. Bharti, another great friend, and we've been debating, and much credit to the development and my transmigration from environmental law to disaster law. The credit, much of it, goes to her. And you were so precise and to the point. Rakesh ji, as always, he is a community leader. And I always say, and we always say, my team is here, Nivedita ji is here, and whom should I name? They're all my teammates, the young ones, and it's so difficult to name all of them. They're all here. And we've been going in teams to Churchanpur, Thobal, which are now supposed to be, very, very difficult areas. Robert, my Center for Law and Governance team is here. Puneet is here. How can I name all of them? Sanjeev ji is here. Gorika is here. And, they've all been, a very, very vibrant team. Sundarbans in the midst of tiger terrain. The whole night we were debating, if you remember, Nivedita ji, the whole night we were debating, we did not sleep because the university paid us only for 3 days stay. And we worked in the daytime in 3 parts, 3 sections, and at night we debated and tried to develop, what it could be. When I was writing a book, it was difficult, because if I have to take that package of scattered ideas to a classroom, it would be very difficult. Difficult in the sense that the students would never entertain something which does not have a central argument, which does not have a theoretical framework. So if I have to go to them and I have to write a book on disaster law, I need to have a theoretical framework. I worked hard, erased, rewrote, then erased, then rewrote. It took me 6-7 years, and finally it came through. And I got 5 fundamental principles of disaster law, which were entirely different from environmental law. And it started with the 3 volumes. Nupur is here from Springer Nature, and we got those 3 volumes, the handbook on disaster management. A huge section was on disaster law. Lots of authors from Asia Pacific. We released it at UNDRR last year. Then comes this book, and then I said, I want no partners in this book. I will just write what I have to write, what I feel, because by then I was almost a lawyer in the trial court. And when I was standing in front of the judges, the whole concept of law changed. Because law was lobby, law was relationships, and in trial court, law was also language, caste, religion, and the expressions that you use. I don't want to elaborate on that. I'll have to write another book on that. But bringing it back to disaster law, I found exactly what Rakesh ji said today. How do these poorer communities reach out and speak their mind? If heart had a writing, really, nobody would be writing books. The heart would be opened up in the court, and people would know what it means. But unfortunately, there's no writing. Similarly, the speechless has no writing. The socially excluded have no writing. LGBTQIA have no writing. And if you look at the disaster history, how badly these people have been tortured, criminalized, thrown out of the society, murdered, burnt. And this is still taking place, and some of the most developed countries are doing that. But I'm not going into that. In the last part, because the organizers are saying that we've consumed all the time. So in the last part, I'll just cut the whole story short, and which is about what is the anchor point of the book. It's the nature of the earth. We forget to understand the nature of the earth. What is earth? 199 million square miles of area is earth. Out of 199 million square miles of area, 139 million square miles is only water. It's the ocean. And so how much land do we have to ourselves? It's only around 60 million square miles. And it's more surprising with the results of the oceanography institutes across the world that, more than 2/4 of this planet Earth is unexplored. Scientists know nothing about it. And why they know nothing about it? Because the ocean is a 3-dimensional structure. It goes deep into an area which is only 200 miles that they can research upon. The rest of it, nobody knows how deep it goes. That is called the abyss. It is this abyss where everything dies and settles down. When fish have to die, they go into the abyss. When all these sea animals want to die, they go into the abyss. And those who have worked with dogs and cats, you would know that an old dog, a stray dog, when he is at the end of his life, he would suddenly disappear because he would go into a burrow or hide himself somewhere and give away his life. That's what is happening in the ocean. And nobody knows anything about what is happening in the abyss. So that is a little thing, and we are like crawling ants over this earth because this earth is a very thin sheet. It's like a rin or a sheath over an extremely ripe fruit. And we are walking on this sheath, the rin sliding out. We are sliding ourselves because even the sheath is not one single hole. It is made up of several plates. These plates are going alongside each other with friction. They are going over and under each other with friction. They are hitting each other with friction, and so the Himalayas are born. Right now, the recent earthquake that happened in Myanmar, coming from that, many more are likely to come July onwards, because that's what the studies have been revealing, because the great volcano is burning up inside. The abyss that I say is the real story created for the earth. There are 4 plates under what we are standing, and we think in our arrogance that we are controlling this world. We are digging it deep, and we are going on digging it. It's unending digging. The whole earth that we are doing, somewhere this shameless activity has to stop. Because nobody knows the nature of the earth, and because they do not know the nature of the earth, that is why they're going on into digging. Everything they come across, they want to dig and recreate and rebuild. This whole activity of tectonic plates, right now I'm talking about the Asia Pacific, only the Asia Pacific. This is a small story, easier to understand, which is Eurasian plate, Indian plate, Sunda plate, and Burmese plate. And you would be shocked to know that the Eurasian and the Indian plate, which have created Himalayas, are still active. The Eurasian plate and Indian plate are moving towards each other 6 centimeters per year. How far are we from disasters? But it's not simply that. There are fault lines inside. And these fault lines are hitting each other. And they have come so close to each other that we are already in an extremely disaster-prone life which is about to come, and unless the judiciary is active enough not to give too much time for evidences to be collected, if the drone has already said that the forest land is destroyed, the ponds are filled with malba, the illegal constructions and encroachments have taken over, then the judiciary should be bold enough to say, yes, that's where it should stop. Nobody should come and cry that we are poor, we are this, we are that, because everyone will become poor because there will be no life. There is no life after death. And we are already in a death zone. And that is all the book focuses upon. And that is all I want to convey to everyone else, to be bold enough to speak up and say where we stand today. Thank you very much.